So now you have to forgive me for the pictures is not exactly in the right order, but you have to see it. Because I was asked to speak about how song and music play a role in diplomacy. And actually, since it is that culture serves as a very powerful vehicle in diplomacy, both within nations but also beside nations, I will give you some examples from real life, and then, hi, I didn't see you, and then some of the more general things that we do. And actually, I will start with ABBA, because today it's 50 years since ABBA, and I guess most of you know ABBA, won in Great Britain with the song Waterloo. And I will come back to what the French military has meant for Swedish cultural songs, but you will get that in the end. Actually, the former, now I should see again. The former Secretary of State in United States, Colin Powell, was a fan of ABBA. His fondness for the Swedish pop group was well known among his friends and colleagues. And one of my predecessors, Anna Linde, and you see Colin Powell and Anna Linde on the picture, had a very warm and useful, for Sweden, useful relation with Colin Powell. She was tragically assassinated 20 years ago. She was only 46 years old when she was stabbed to death for political reasons. But she learned that Colin Powell loved ABBA. So at their first meeting, she brought CDs with ABBA songs. And he became very happy about this. And they started in the evening after negotiation to sing ABBA songs together. And actually, they had even a little karaoke thing, and Anna, she was a blonde and by natural, she played Agneta Fältskog, who is the blonde girl in ABBA. And it was reported in the Swedish and American tabloids that Colin Powell sang Knowing Me, Knowing You, and that his diplomats looked very worried. Colin Powell's affection for ABBA was notably highlighted during his funeral, with the military band playing Dancing Queen as a tribute to Colin Powell. And that added a very personal and a very memorable touch to his legacy, demonstrating his lighter side for being a distinguished military and having a distinguished military and political career. Last month, I was invited as a speaker to the 20th anniversary of Slovenia's membership in NATO. There was very serious discussing during the day. I was invited to speak about women, peace and security, because Sweden had a feminist foreign policy during my tenure as foreign minister. And in the end, there were a little bit more festivities. There was a presidential speech, but there was also the National Army Orchestra. And in the end, as a tribute to Sweden and to me, the band played Waterloo. But then one of the military leaned towards me and said, "Wasn't that a big defeat?" But then it was a big defeat for the French, not for the Brits. So let us, yeah, you can see it. So let us continue to the Eurovision and diplomacy. The Eurovision Song Contest final is the world's largest television show with 200 million viewers. It's of course a wonderful, sometimes very crazy, with songs and entertainment, but in many ways it's also a reflection of culture, social and political development. In Europe, where the competition says a lot about the mood and about the continent. I guess that some of you have heard that the Eurovision final was last weekend in Malmö, because Sweden won last year. This year it was Switzerland, but last year it was. And it turned out to be a big controversy, because as always, Eurovision is also about politics. And this time there was an Israeli singer who was, Israel is part of the Eurovision Song Contest, as is Australia, for historical reasons. But because of what's going on in Gaza, there were big demonstrations the whole week, because people didn't want Israel to be allowed to sing, just as Russia was not allowed to sing after the invasion in Ukraine. But it was used also for diplomatic reason. The Israeli ambassador went to Malmö and did many interviews, and during the whole time he had a black t-shirt with the word ABBA on it. So it was used in a clever way by the Israeli ambassador as a diplomatic tool. After the Russian invasion in Ukraine, the Ukraine singer Ruslana won that same year. And you know, it's, for those of you who are not familiar with Eurovision, you have half of the votes from ordinary people who text message or ring in their votes, and half is by a jury. And she won, and the Ukrainian government has used her and the song on numerous occasions to build support for their cause against the Russian invasion. Then we have Nicola Klase. She is a very experienced Swedish ambassador. She was ambassador in London, in Helsinki, and now after the summer she will be the new Swedish ambassador to the United Nations. She's also a great fan of Eurovision. She did in 2016 a radio program called The Swedish Ambassador's Guide to Eurovision. And it was such a hit that she got several awards from the BBC World Service and from the Association of International Broadcasting Award. She thinks that this Eurovision Song Contest, with its political explosiveness, is kind of a temperature of the political situation in Europe. For a few minutes, the participating countries gets the chance to show itself to the outside world in one of the world's most widely distributed television broadcasts. Diplomats call this soft power, to make an impression on others. The theory behind soft power is that an attractive country gains many followers and thus get a greater weight in international contexts. Basically, it's about the country being perceived as attractive. One way to get there is to do well in Eurovision. When the competition reaches also United States and China, 3 minutes are very valuable. Ambassador Klase admits that it is easy to dismiss Eurovision as a single spectacle, a simple spectacle, with no connection to European politics. But she gives an advice to her fellow diplomats. The Eurovision vote is in fact one of the best gauge of political development on the European continent. And you could see this year that many countries, for example, Sweden and many other countries, the jury gave not so high points to the Israeli votes, but many in the societies has decided to support the Israeli singer and gave her the #1 place in their votes. This is precisely why, as the Ambassador Klase said, that makes the competition irresistible for diplomats. And here is a European politician that is not very well liked by almost anybody, but we had a very useful relation. That is Liz Truss. She was like prime minister for 49 days or something like that, after having a catastrophe, economic policy that was a catastrophe for Great Britain. But during a time, she was also foreign minister of UK. And that was the time when Sweden applied for NATO-ship. And today, the 17th of May, it's actually exactly 2 years since I signed the application for Swedish membership in NATO. But we also needed to get security guarantees from countries in this very vulnerable time between applying for membership until we got membership, because then we were on our own with no security. And the Russians had said that during this time, we will not be forgivable for you applying to membership of NATO. So I thought for me it would be very, very important to quickly form a bond with this new foreign minister of UK. And I decided to do a little bit what the male foreign ministers always do, or prime ministers. They take their counterpart to a football game, and then they sit there together and cheer over their teams and so on. So I said I'm not very interested in football, and I guess she was not very interested in football, but I wanted to do something for us to bond. And then I saw that in London they had this wonderful musical, a feminist musical called And Juliet. It's a Swedish songmaker called Max Martin. He is the second person in the world who has #1 Billboard hits. He has written many, many hits for Britney Spears, Take That, Taylor Swift, whenever. It's just Paul McCartney who is #1, and Max Martin is #2. So, all of the songs everybody has heard hundreds of times. And Liz Truss asked, can I take my teenage daughters? And I said, yes, of course. And it was fantastic. This musical, who is both on Broadway and in London, is an absolute smash hit. And both she and I and her daughters were so, in such a happy mood. So we bonded. That you can see in that picture, I think it shows that we bonded very much. And she did everything to get us an agreement of security guarantees, and what was extremely, oops. Do I need to have a password or something?
It's me. I'm letting you use my computer.
Yeah.
Maybe my fingerprint may be enough.
Yeah. But it was also very typical, this male and female in everything, because nobody ever says something if a male foreign minister or prime minister take their male colleague to football. But when I said I want to take her to the musical, they said, oh, but we cannot pay it. We think you have to pay it yourself. And is this diplomacy or is this blah, blah, blah? But the ambassador in London said this is public cultural diplomacy at its best. So she supported me, and finally it became a principle for me. So So in the end, the foreign ministry paid for it. But we don't only have song, we also have food. This is the Swedish ambassador. He doesn't look the best in that photo, but still. This is the Swedish ambassador to South Africa. His name is Håkan Juholt. He also used to be a party leader for the Social Democratic Party of Sweden, and he was before that the ambassador to Iceland. He coined the term herring diplomacy as an innovative way to build relation and promote diplomatic contacts. The concept involves using herring, that is a traditional Swedish dish. You can say something like sushi. It's a raw fish with a lot of picklings, as a social and cultural bridge at diplomatic meetings and events. Juholt has used this herring diplomacy by arranging activities such as the master class in herring pickling at the ambassador's residence in Pretoria, and before that the ambassador's residence in Reykjavik. This event has not only introduced guests to Swedish flavors, but also serve as a way to create conversations and strengthening relationships. And guests could then participate themselves in pickling herring. And in Iceland, for example, there was television program, and he was the #1 most liked ambassador in the whole country after doing this. He made this book called Herring Diplomacy. It's also in English. The other man you saw in the picture was Ted Karlberg. And they want to spread this use of food and making food together as a diplomatic tool, an icebreaker. And he shows very effectively how some simple thing as herring can have deep cultural and diplomatic significance. And herring diplomacy is actually a kind of cultural diplomacy that I think it's very, very interesting. As I have showed, culture is a significant aspect of the nation's identity, and to sharing these practices, whether it be singing Knowing Me, Knowing You with the State Secretary of United States, or sharing a dinner with South African diplomats about herrings. It's promoting the country's culture abroad, and this is enhancing the image and build the relationship. It also shows the cultural heritage from your country. And in Sweden, I'm sorry, I have to do this because it's not in the right, not put in the right way. In Sweden, all our embassy use a typical Swedish festivity called the Midsummer Festival. We are always angry because there is always the meeting with the council in EU when we have our midsummer festivities. And it's celebrated every year in all our embassies. This is one of the big ones. She is the General Counselor of New York, the Swedish General Counselor of New York. And every year up to 10,000 people come to Battery Park in New York and celebrates the Midsummer Festival. And that gives a lot, here for example is from the official authorities in the New York State about this festival. So it is a part of the soft power that is used to influence others through culture, song and folklore. And here is something that I think is very, very funny. At the midsummer, and I will sing a song for you. We have a specific, very, very crazy, stupid song called "The Small Frogs," and it goes like this. Small frogs, that's små grodorna. Små grodorna är lustiga att se. Små grodorna är lustiga att se. Ej öron, no ears. Ej svansar hava det, no tails. Ej öron, ej svansar hava det. And now come the best part. And 10,000 doing this in New York. But the thing is, when you and everybody thinks it's so funny when we learn this song. I've done it with so many international guests, but this melody actually is a French military march. It's called La Chanson de l'Oignon, and the refrain is "Oh passe camarade, oh passe camarade, oh passe, oh passe, oh passe, oh passe camarade, oh passe camarade, oh passe, oh passe, oh passe." But the British thought that they wanted to humiliate the French, so they said that this is typical French. They cannot sing, and it doesn't sound like anything else than frogs, and they called the French the small frogs, and said it's not opasse, it's quack quack quack. But we didn't understand that this was a fight between France and Britain, so we took it as a wonderful stupid song that everybody could dance to about frogs. So this is a diplomatic fight that we didn't understand, and now every person learns this song from they are very small and sings it at every midsummer festival. So I think this is quite a funny story. Finally, I will just say a few things that we do in Sweden to promote this cultural and public diplomacy. We have an institute called the Swedish Institute. That's a key actor in our cultural diplomacy efforts. It organizes various cultural exchanges programs, exhibitions, events to promote Swedish culture and by that values. When we had the feminist foreign policy, for example, we created an exhibition called Swedish Dads, where different male dads, everything from a bodybuilder to a carpenter and a diplomat, they take care of their small babies. Because in Sweden we have 3 months that the dads could be on parental leave, otherwise the family lose it. That's a smart thing to get the dads to take it. And we wanted to promote these values by doing an exhibition, and it was very, very popular. We also have, of course, like I guess many other countries, using our embassies as showcases for Swedish design and art and everything. And then, of course, also to have public diplomacy, like I spent the whole last week in Washington meeting diplomats, politicians on the Hill, think tanks and so on. And we have used our whole embassy. It's called the House of Sweden, and it's placed in a beautiful area near the Kennedy Center of Performing Arts. So the embassy is open, and there's always exhibitions. Well, some part is closed, of course, but you can go in from the street and see Swedish art. I was there when we had a singer. I think maybe the audience is a little too old, but she's called Robin, and maybe some has heard Dancing on Your Own, which was a big, big hit a few years ago. We had a workshop for teenage girls who wanted to be more active in tech, using Robin as a popular singer and me as a hopefully popular foreign minister to engage young, in this case American teenage girls, to get more self-esteem and to work more in this area. So by that I think that this is about songs, but also a little wider of how you can use music and food as a tool, a diplomatic tool in contemporary diplomacy, and how I myself have seen how effective it actually can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Tan Linde. It's great to have you here after our first encounter in Skopje at our host, our home here at the ICT Academy. We'd be very happy to welcome your questions, your comments, your debates with Ms. Linde, a special opportunity, former foreign minister. Let's start in the back. And please introduce yourself, as always.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Cyril. I'm from the Philippines, and I used to work as the Press and Culture Officer in the German Embassy in Manila. And it was my job to promote, to do cultural diplomacy in behalf of Germany in the Philippines. So it's this is more of a comment and like a personal opinion about my impressions in Swedish diplomacy, especially cultural diplomacy. I think Sweden has is really a good example of using cultural diplomacy as a tool to promote its foreign policy, not only for like political reasons, but also to really put forward certain agenda like feminist policies and agenda. It's very important that we include women, but also, like you said, music and folklore and songs. And as someone who comes from the Philippines, who loves a country that loves to sing, Dancing Queen by ABBA is one of the most popular songs that we sing. And when the Swedish embassy opened in Manila a few years ago, they had the reception for the Swedish National Day, and of course, Dancing Queen was one of the songs that were performed there. So it's just, for me, it's a comment on, I want to congratulate or just to commend Swedish foreign policy in terms of promoting cultural diplomacy as a tool for thank you.
Thank you. And I know that when you're in Philippines, they always demand that you sing some karaoke. And I have done some things there. I hope nobody has some video.
Excellent. Let's continue.
Yeah.
Please. Okay.
I have one question. Excellency, I have one question. It's, you talked about the public policy and all time in Sweden. What's your opinion on opinion diplomacy plus culture diplomacy in the Sweden? What's the perfect, for example, you talked about the Eurovisions. This is a big events in the world. And also I'm emphasizing about the opinion diplomacy for the in Sweden. What's this? Thank you.
You mean if we use it more strategically? Yeah. In some ways, but mainly via the Swedish Institute and that. And when it comes to ambassadors, it's very different. It depends a lot on the ambassador how they use it. Some embassies, like House of Sweden in Washington, it's in their, regulations that it is public diplomacy that should be used widely. And there are special spaces that was created when we built the embassy to be able to use in such a way. But then there are also other ambassadors that are not very interested in it. So it's, I have to admit that it's a mixed basket. But all those time when, like Håkan Juholt, who became famous in Iceland and got a television show, television programs, and then has done very well in South Africa as well by using the herring diplomacy. There are several good examples. And for example, Nicola Klase, whom I showed about, when she got her program at BBC, The Diplomat's Guide to Eurovision, now still, and that's 8 years ago since she did that program, every year she is asked in UK biggest television programs and so on, okay, what is your reaction? What do you think? What do you think about Sweden? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not so easy to get a slot in UK programs, for example. So it has been an important issue.
Thank you, Minister. I'm a great admirer of your country, but also of the whole Nordic region. I spent 7 years of my life in that region. I studied in Finland, and I was blessed also to be ambassador to Sweden back in the 90s. I was concurrently ambassador to the 5 Nordic countries, so I visited extensively. And I have a deep admiration and respect for what stands for the Nordic way of life. I'm saying this because my experience was that the whole Nordic region gives a lot of emphasis on culture. And in order to exercise or to implement cultural diplomacy, first of all, you have to respect your own culture and the culture of others. So I just wanted to know what is the percentage, for example, in your budget that is devoted to culture. I know that this is much higher, maybe the highest in the whole of Europe. But can you give us a little bit more of that aspect of your dedication to culture as Sweden? If you can talk also about the other Nordic countries, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, what is most directly is how much we give to the Swedish Institute to promote all of this, and that's a huge institute. I don't know anymore. I was, as a Minister of Trade, it was my authority, so I was the one who was in charge. Yes, but under the Minister of Trade. So if the Minister of Trade is somewhere else, sometimes it's under the Minister of Industry. The Swedish Institute is there because it's seen as also promotion. We also have a music. We use music as a tool in our export strategy, and every year the Swedish government or Minister of Trade, mainly Foreign Ministry, is awarding a person with the yearly export prize, and that has become very prestigious. We give it to one popular culture person. I gave it to Ludwig Göransson, who you don't know who it is, but he won both Oscar and Grammy. He wrote all the music, for example, to Oppenheimer, this movie, and also to one of those movies about African kingdoms that is extremely popular. It's more of a well, that kind of movie I don't see. It's more of a fairy tales, but it's blockbusters. He also got an Oscar for that one, so he has been 2-time Oscar winner, and I had a possibility to award him with the prize. And also the one that goes to an opera singer or, things like that. So it's very, we take it very seriously. And also we have put a lot of tax money in music school for kids. And Sweden has a lot of those inventions, like Skype was a Swedish invention, Spotify is a Swedish invention, and the Swedish CEO of Spotify, Daniel Ek, he always said that it was several things that made it possible to build Spotify. One was that so many of the Swedish youth go to music school, more or less everybody, and you always have to start with this little flute, everybody, no. And then afterwards you can say if you want a guitar or piano, whatever you want. And the second was that we have a welfare system that makes you able to fail. Because if you fail when you try to start your own company or so on, you are not, out of the street, but there is a system that breach you between when you are out of job or when you're sick or so on. So you can dare to see that you can fail. And the third thing is that we were one of the first country that built broadband in each city. And now we have 5G going to 6G soon. And that was the lay the ground. And Sweden has been one of the, now I'm going a little bit out of cultural diplomacy, but the country with the most unicorns. And unicorn, that is a startup company that is worth more than $1 billion. And we have the most of unicorns in the world. So we believe in this way, really.
Any additional questions or final question? Okay. Then if not, then let's please express our sincere gratitude and for the honor of you coming and also for delivering the keynote address. Thank you.